Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the incoming ninth grade orientation. Ms. Moore and I are very excited to share a lot of information for you about the ninth grade year and the senior high school course selection process. First, I'd like to introduce my wonderful colleagues, our school principal, Mr. Kyle Hosier, our assistant principal, Jennifer Johnson, and we have our chairs here with us tonight. English chair, Mike DeVito. Math, Melissa Chiavati. Science, Sharon Bayless. Social studies, Dan Schickett. World language, Jonathan Hansenbrook. Fine and performing arts, John Cataliato. We also have, I'm sure many of you already know, our three school psychologists. Michelle Greenwald, Robin Younger, and Mitch Shapiro. And Ms. Moore, I'm going to ask you to share our slides, please. Great, thank you. So our first slide talks a little bit about our course selection process. Ms. Moore and I started to talk to the eighth graders, and all students are required to schedule an appointment with their counselor prior to completing the final course selection form that they will receive through their school email this week. Ms. Moore and I enjoyed visiting all the classrooms before break, and we gave eighth graders information about what the ninth grade year is going to look like and some of the exciting course selections that they can start to make. We also reminded them to please share information with their parents and guardians at home. And I hope they did talk about it a little bit over break. And the course selection form is due by March 21st. The course request will be posted on the parent portal for review on March 25th after that, and any changes must be made by March 29th. So since they are starting senior high school, there are graduation requirements. There are required subjects, English 4 credits, social studies 4 credits, math 3 credits, science 3 credits, world language, the minimum is 1 credit, but many of our students will continue and take more than 1 year of a world language. Health, 0.5 credit before they graduate. Art and or music, 1 credit. Again, many of our students, for example, taking band or an art course, will continue to take more than 1 credit as they progress in high school. Elective courses, 3.5 credits, and physical education every year. And at the end of their senior year, they need to take 2 credits. So the total minimum credits they will need to take would be 22 credits. We also offer Regents exams, and Regents exams are not school-based exams or New York State exams. Students at the end of 11th grade will take the English Regents. They must also pass the Global History and Geography Regents at the end of their 10th grade year. Algebra 1 is typically taken at the end of their 9th grade year. When students complete a Regents level science class, they will take a Regents exam at the end of the year. And US History and Government Regents is usually taken at their junior year. Students do not need to worry about their Regents exams if they're doing nicely in their everyday classes. And teachers usually will prepare them and share materials so they can prepare for the Regents exams that are offered usually in June in the springtime. And next, I'm going to ask Ms. Moore to continue about the 9th grade year. Ms. Moore, you're muted.
Sorry. Good evening. So we think this is a really fun year in ninth grade because it's the first opportunity they have to have more choices. So we always say the older they get, the more choices they're going to have with their courses. So going into ninth grade is the first time they're going to have some more choices to make moving into high school. So there are some core classes that all ninth graders will be scheduled for. So students will all take algebra. They'll be recommended for they were already recommended for the appropriate level for them going into ninth grade. All students take English 9, Global Studies 1, which is the first half of world history, lunch, and PE. Where students have some choices is their science class. So they get the opportunity to choose between earth science and living environment. They'll choose their world language. As I noted, most students will continue in the same language that they're currently in, though there are times when a student might want to change a language, and that's where the individual appointments with their counselor and conversations with their teachers is really beneficial. And then they get to choose their electives. I will dive into the electives in just a second. In terms of electives, there's full year and half year. I'm going to switch slides so you can take a look. So for full year courses, we offer three different studio and art classes. These are the foundational art classes. They're prerequisites for students to move on to any of our wonderful art electives moving forward in high school. So many students will choose to take a studio in art in ninth grade so that they have the opportunity to take other art classes. It also fulfills their art credit for graduation, as Ms. Matano was just sharing. Band, chorus, and strings are other full year options. Mr. Cataliato will speak about those in just a minute. There are some differences going into high school with how frequently students have those courses. And with band and chorus, they'll receive, again, their music credit at the completion if they are to take the course in ninth grade, and strings at the end of their third year. Some students might also choose to take a second world language. So in addition to the language they're currently taking, some students love language and want to continue. Then we have our semester classes. So these are half-year courses. Depending on your child's schedule, they can take up to either 2 full-year courses or 1 full-year course and up to 2 semester-long courses. This might differ a little bit for certain students if they have recommended services. So some students might have ENL or resource room or lab periods, in which case they might be able to take 1 full year or 2 half-year courses. And we would talk to your children about that when we meet with them. So for semester-long classes, we have dance, first aid, CPR, and AED, Greek and Latin roots of English, which is a new elective Mr. Hansen-Burke will speak about. Health 10, it's typically, as indicated by 10, a 10th grade course. We do open it up to 9th graders, and we did share with your children that, particularly if they're thinking about our Science Scholars program or AP Computer Science Principles in 10th grade, we would recommend that they take this course in 9th grade, because the Science Scholars will be a commitment for 2.5 years. It's an authentic science research program. So in order to make sure they fulfill their health requirement, it's best to do it in 9th grade. The history of New York City, introduction to computer science, nutrition, speech, and becoming mindful, which is a bit different. It's a great course. It's only 1 semester, and it meets once in the 6-day cycle. So it's not a credit-bearing class, but a wonderful opportunity for students to learn more about mindfulness. I am now going to turn it over to Mr. Cataliato to speak more about the fine and performing arts.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. It's nice to see everybody here. In 9th grade, students have a choice to choose a choice of 3 options in art. There's studio in 3D, which is mostly painting and drawing, studio in 2D, which is painting and drawing, studio in 3D, which is sculpture and ceramics, and STEAM studio, which is digital art. Any of those first-year courses leads to any of the second-year courses that you see listed in the center column: animation, art and commerce, which was previously advertising and design, drawing and painting, photography 1, and the moving image, which is a combination of our 2 film classes. So you can zigzag through the curriculum as you go. It makes sense to kind of follow a path if you're doing 2D to travel on to drawing and painting and then particularly AP, but you don't necessarily have to do that. If you're looking to diversify, all of the ones in the center column are available after taking any one of the options in the left-hand column, and they all feed into contemporary digital imaging and AP art. We're ready for the next slide. For performing arts, band and chorus, instead of meeting every other day, or what you're experiencing now, once a cycle for band or every other day for chorus, They meet every day or as close to every day as possible. Strings meets only on 2 days out of the cycle for now. All the ensembles rehearse during the same period. So students who would like to be in more than one ensemble do not have to sacrifice other courses in their schedule. If you're in only one ensemble, you have that ensemble every day. If you're in two ensembles, then you split that cycle in half, however Ms. Morrison and I decide to. And then if you're split 3 ways, we just commit to cycle days specifically and work off of that. AP Music Theory is another elective that's available, but that's only available in 11th and 12th grade, and it's a full year course. You'll need to have some fundamentals of music going into the course, but it's not always necessary to have a background in performing to take that class. Up next is Mike DeVito in the English department.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here to tell you about our options in the English department in the senior high school. As Ms. Moore said, all 9th grade students take the foundational English 9. It's a heterogeneous class, which means it's mixed students of all ability levels. And it's a typical English class. We emphasize close reading, essay structure, research, and it prepares students to move on. Once they leave 9th grade, there are a lot of choices. As you can see from the slide, one lane that students can go down is to choose English 10, which is also called American and Global Literature. And the literature taught in English 10 is aligned with the Global 2 curriculum. That's the 10th grade Global Studies curriculum. And so as they're learning in history, light is shined on the literature and vice versa. The other option is a course called Global Perspectives, which is a team-taught English social studies course. And the same is true in terms of the curriculum of Global Studies 2 and English 10 coalescing, but the uniting of those two subjects is much easier because the two teachers are in the room, and there is throughout the year a connection between the English curriculum and the global curriculum. In English 9, while students are in 9th grade, they can also elect to take the honors qualifying essay. And that would send them, if they got into honors, into a different lane. Students will take the honors qualifying essay in January, and then if they do well on that and they earn teacher recommendation and they earn stellar grades, they are admitted to the honors program. And then from there, they can move on to English 11H and English 12H. Now, if a student elects Global and American Literature in 10th grade or Global Perspectives in 10th grade, the door is not shut on honors. They can also elect to take the honors qualifying essay in January of their 10th grade year. And if, again, teacher recommendation and stellar grades, they can be welcomed into English 11 honors. But if not, there's a lot more choice. There are English 11, 12, what we've called selectives. And what that means is every other year, there's a different menu of 4 courses available to 11th and 12th graders, and the courses are taught, with 11th and 12th graders mixed. The year that your students, your 8th graders, will be going into 11th grade, the choices available to them will be imaginative nonfiction, the American Dream, Race in American Literature, and the Literature of Gender and Identity. Those are 4 separate courses. And then following that, in their senior year, they'll have the opportunity to take courses, among these 4, War and Conflict, Satire and Rhetoric, Dramatic Literature, and the Literature of Immigration. Each of the courses is a half-year course, and so students typically, they kind of rank their choices, and they're typically given their first choice in the first semester and their second in the second semester, or vice versa. And from 11th grade, they can still take the honors qualifying essay if they choose and be welcomed into English 12H if, again, they do well on the essay and earn stellar grades and teacher recommendation. We also have 2 electives in English that can be taken anytime. One is creative writing, open to 10th through 12th grade students, and one is speech, which is open to 9th through 12th grade students. I will hand it off now to Melissa Akivati, our math chair.
Hi, everyone. Melissa Akivati, how are you? So our students as ninth graders, everyone will take some form of algebra, as you can see. New York State requires one Regents exam. So the majority of students will take Algebra 1 Regents at the end of their ninth grade year. Then following that, they will go into some form of a geometry class. As you can see, we have geometry, we have honors geometry, we also have topics in geometry. We also offer electives for our students. In ninth grade, they can also take our Intro to Comp Sci course. And then following their Algebra 1 year, students will take, as I said, students will take some form of geometry, and then students enrolled in Algebra 1 will also have the opportunity to self-select to accelerate their studies in their sophomore year. During this year, they would take both geometry and Algebra 2 simultaneously, assuming it fits into their schedule. During, that's their sophomore year. They would then be placed into pre-calc as a junior, and they can take AP Calculus AB as a senior. In addition, we have some electives available to our students. Students are eligible to take Intro to Comp Sci beginning as a ninth grader. That's a half-year course. We also have 2 advanced placement computer science courses. Students are eligible to take these AP computer science courses during their 11th and 12th grade years. Actually, I apologize. One of them is now offered in their 10th grade year. Having, if they have taken Intro to Comp Sci before that, they can take that as a sophomore. And we also offer AP Statistics to students, either their junior or senior year. That's another elective that would be an option for them. Okay, and at this point, I will hand it over to our Science Department Chair, Sharon Bayless.
Thank you. As mentioned earlier, the state requires 3 years of science. However, most students will take all 4 years.
Sorry, Sharon, it's pretty hard to hear you.
Sorry. See if I can fix that. That better? Not better?
No, not really.
Right, let me throw in my, sorry, earbuds.
While we wait for Ms. Bayless, I could just talk a little bit about the ninth grade science choices. And Ms. Bayless, when you're ready, please jump in. So Ms. Moore and I visited the 8th grade classes and talked about earth science and living environment. We chuckled and said living environment is really what myself and your parents took biology. We explained a little bit about what the focus is in both classes. 8th graders also received information from their current 8th grade science teachers about what the focus would be.
I think I'm better.
Yes,
Are we
thank
good?
you, Ms. Bayless.
Sorry about
You're
that.
set.
Sorry about that. As Junko was explaining, as ninth graders, the students do have the option of taking either living environment or earth science. About 3/4 of our students will end up taking living environment, or what we used to refer to as biology. If the students choose that option, then they typically will take a chemistry class in 10th grade. We offer both a general chemistry and an honors class. The students, though, also do then have the option of taking earth science again, but as a 10th grader. So any of the 9th grade options are open to our 10th graders as well. Once they get into 11th grade, there's a number of different options available to the students. We have an introductory physics class, and that's also then the year that we open up our AP courses to the students. We have AP biology, chemistry, physics, and an AP environmental science course. The requirements to get into the classes is maintaining an average of B in their science classes in either 9th or 10th grade. As juniors, they also have the option of taking an elective, but that's only then as a second science. So they would still take a core science and take an elective as a second course. The electives are half-year classes, and they rotate between forensics, astronomy, anatomy, and neuroscience. And then as 12th graders, the students have the opportunity to take any of the classes, including the electives as their primary science. The other science class that is offered is Science Scholars. This is a research course that the students take in addition to their regular class. If they decide to join, they would start the program in 10th grade, so that would take one of their elective spots in 10th grade, and it continues through the first semester of 12th grade. And more information about our Science Scholars program will be presented both to students and parents next year as they continue through 9th grade. So next we'll hear from Dan Schuckett about the social studies option.
Thank you, Ms. Bayless. So all incoming 9th graders take Global 1, Global Studies 1, which is the first of a 2-year sequence in New York State of global studies. When they complete 9th grade, most of our students will go to either Global Studies 2 or Global Perspectives, which is the interdisciplinary class that Mr. DeVito spoke of before. That's a class that's taught by a social studies teacher and an English teacher at once. Or they could take regular Global Studies 2, 10th grade Global Studies 2. Or if they're recommended, if they've done very well in 9th grade and they're recommended, they can change lanes and take AP European History in 10th grade. If they're in that lane in 10th grade, they can, assuming that all goes well, they can stay in that lane for 11th grade and take AP American History. And during senior year, they can take AP Government and Politics or AP Macroeconomics. Many kids take both AP Macro and AP GOPO in senior year. Some take one or the other. It's really up to them. They have choices. Going back to the 10th grade year, if they stay in that sort of regular lane of Global Studies 2 or Global Perspectives, in 11th grade, they would take American History, which is a year-long survey course, which culminates in the American History Regents Test. As we mentioned at the beginning about the Regents, they take 2 social studies Regents tests. They take the Global Studies Regents, which is combines 2 years worth of material, 9th grade and 10th grade. They take it at the end of 10th grade, and all students take the American History Regents test, typically at the end of 11th grade. We also have some elective courses in social studies. We have psychology, also known as baby psych around campus, and we have AP Psych. AP Psych is open to 11th and 12th graders. Baby Psych is open to students in 10th grade through 12th grade. Those are, AP Psych is a year-long course. Baby Psych is a half-year course. We also have elective classes in the history of New York City and current international issues. Those classes are also half-year classes. And while I'm talking about the length of classes, I should also remind you that the AP Macroeconomics classes and AP Government and Politics classes are also half-year classes that move fairly quickly to cover a year's worth of material in half a year. So that's the rundown of the social studies program. And now I'd like to turn it over to Jonathan Hansenbrook, chair of the World Languages program.
Thank you, Mr. Shuckett. Good evening, everyone. For most of your students, your children, our students, they began their world language experience in 7th grade and either started in the Spanish 7, Latin 7, or French 7 classes, and this year moved on to the Spanish 8, Latin 8, or French 8 classes. Some students may have delayed their entry into the language program until 8th grade this year, in which case they either are in the Latin, French, or Spanish 7 classes, or they might have taken the Spanish for Communication A course, which you can see on the screen. The typical progression for these, the next step would be to move from the 8th grade course into Spanish 2. Or Latin 2 or French 2. And if your your child is in the Spanish for Communication A course, they would move to the B level and progress each year as they go. With students entering 9th grade, some will choose to switch languages, and some, we certainly encourage, may decide to stick with their language and then pick up a second world language. And students do have space in their schedule to take a second world language while taking their original level. Whether students continue or switch really is up to the individual child, obviously in consultation with you, the adults in the household. But regardless of what the choice is, it is very important for your student to continue with language beyond the bare minimum 1 year that New York State requires. For students who are looking at selective or highly selective colleges, those schools typically look for the full four years of high school, 3 or 4 years, certainly at the high school. So progressing through as much language as possible over the next 4 years is advantageous, not only to their learning, but also if you're thinking about the college process. And I know it's frustrating to think about that now when your child is still in 8th grade, but I know it's on their minds to a certain extent and probably on yours as well. In French and Latin, when students finish 9th grade, we offer the following year's honors level courses. Our enrollment in those 2 languages is not robust enough to support both a regular track and an honors track. So students simply level up into the honors program going forward for those final 3 years through 12th grade. The Spanish program after level 2, if students satisfy the grade level required prerequisite, which is a 90 or above at the end of the year, they will be recommended to the 3H class. If not, they'll be recommended for the 3 regular class. And that is not, students who are in a regular course are not stuck in a regular course level going forward. They can switch into the 4H class the following year, or go to 4 regular the following year. They could go to 5H after that. Students can move back and forth depending on the comfortability with the language and their progress. The Spanish for Communication, which is focused more on the spoken aspects and the reading for comprehension aspects of the language as opposed to the written aspects of the language, progress through 12th grade. And in 12th grade, that class combines with students coming out of the 4 regular class into the Communication E or Spanish 5 class. And we simply keep the designations, the letters or the numbers on the transcript for consistency when students are applying to college. We found that it removes a lot of the confusion from the college's standpoint, wondering why is there a number here but a letter here. But the Communication E and Spanish 5 regular classes are the same level. Students in 12th grade who are typically in the honors course, but there's nothing to stop them if they're in the 5 regular course, have the option of taking the AP exam in their respective language. We do not call our upper level courses AP classes, and this allows for our students to choose whether or not they wish to take the exam. while we encourage students to take the exam, we want them to take it for the right reasons. And we also don't want to discourage students from taking an upper level course because they feel obligated to take another AP exam that maybe their heart isn't in. So that is our language offerings for world language. But we're also very excited that next year we will be offering a half-year elective, Greek and Latin Roots of English, that was put together by my colleague Carol Condos, and that will, the name is self-explanatory, but it is a course that is meant to not only show the connections between the ancient languages and our modern English language, but also to draw connections between the way those words are used in different disciplines. So it is meant not just for the student who is in love with language as a pursuit or as content, but also for students who are looking to broaden their understanding of why certain words are used or certain phrases are used in their other courses. So math, science, but also social studies and English. All of those disciplines have connections to the Greek and Latin roots class. And so we're hoping that we'll see some nice enrollment in that. It should be a really great course. And we're very excited that we will be able to offer it starting next year. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Mitch Shapiro, who will talk about the peer leadership program.
Thanks, Jonathan. So as you've heard, there are a lot of choices at the high school level, and with choice sometimes comes a lot of stress. And just wanted to remind you all that the psychologists, Dr. Greenwald, Ms. Younger, myself, as well as all the counselors, Ms. Matano, Ms. Moore, but also our 3 high school counselors continue to be available to all the students and to you if questions come up related to stress, students being overloaded, and any variety of issues that may come up for them, and they do. But I wanted to highlight one program that we offer for the high school students called Peer Advocacy. The Peer Advocacy program is kind of unique to Edgemont. It offers, it's an extracurricular activity that's offered during the students' lunch period. And it offers regularly scheduled opportunities for students in same grades to have small group discussions, to check in, to get to know each other, to learn coping strategies, studying communication skills. They might discuss issues relevant to Edgemont teens. Like, for example, today we spoke in one peer meeting about the lifting of the mask mandate in New York State and the implications for us there, the proposed schedule change for next year, how people were feeling about that, situation in Ukraine. So we might tackle a whole bunch of other topics in a wide range. And students will share, the peer leaders that run these meetings will kind of share strategies that they've employed that have helped them get through high school and open up the conversation and facilitate it. I'm there to sort of, along with them, to help veer it in another direction, to help validate a perspective or help another student who might be struggling to expand on what's going on. It's a great program. What we hear from students mostly is that it gives them a sense that everyone is kind of struggling with the same issues. And so a sense of community is formed, and it's not the same thing as sitting with a group of your friends. We kind of randomly assign students in the lunch periods to these groups. Usually they're paired with at least one person that they know pretty well, but we try to mix it up so that students have an opportunity to step outside their comfort zone, get other perspectives, really learn to know that their experience is really not unique. And there are a lot of people that can help them with their struggle and reflect back for them. So we usually get a lot of participation in the high school. And in the 9th grade in particular, we often get half the grade sign up. It operates like a club. So students sign up at the activities fair and the peer leaders will be walking around signing people up. And generally the groups will meet twice per month on the same day of the week so that they have a sense of when it's their day. And we have been meeting in a classroom this year because of the COVID restrictions, but next year we'll return the program. Hopefully we'll be returning the program to my office where it's always been. So I think with that, we're done with the presentation and we're going to have open it up to questions. I guess I'll send it back to Ms. Matano, Ms. Moore.
Great, thank you. Before we start with questions, just as a reminder, you can ask questions now. We have it opened. We already have some questions in. But before we get started with that, I just want to remind parents and guardians, we'll be sending out a follow-up email to your children, also to you, that outlines the whole course selection process for this year. We also encourage you to access if you haven't already looked at the curriculum bulletin, that has a wealth of information, details, every one of our classes, the flow charts. It also gives descriptions for criteria for certain classes as students get older. I just want to mention, as I did in many programs, we like to show it. We want students to, in high school, really pick classes that they're passionate about, where they're going to meet with success. As they get older, there are some levels, and we do have criteria in place to make sure students are in the classes where they're going to meet with the most success. That being said, just to clarify, none of our programs are tracked. So students, may be eligible for a certain class, even if it's not something that's open to them, let's say in 10th or 11th grade. So just as a reminder, we really want students to find that balance between what they're doing in school, but also outside of school. It's really important. And we talk to your students a lot about that. We want them engaged in the school community or the outside community and have the time to balance that. So I just wanted to plug that quickly. And also the slideshow and the recording will be available tomorrow. I will send an email out. It will be on our website as well, the counseling department website. I'll send a link to all of those tomorrow so you can access the slideshow. And if you wanted to rewatch this recording, you can as many times as you'd like. All right, so I'm going to start with some questions. The first question is, I'm going to stop sharing so we can see each other. Okay. The first question is, can students take AP Computer Science in 9th grade if they're proficient in computer science?
So for our 9th graders, they can take Intro to Computer Science, which is the half-year course. The AP course in computer science is offered to them as a 10th grader or above. We have 2 different AP comp sci classes. So the prerequisite for the one that they can take as a sophomore is to either take a intro as a 9th grader or to wait until they take geometry and then take that class as a junior. And then they can take our other AP comp sci as a senior if they want to take that.
Thank you. The next question is, can a student be part of like a jazz ensemble or extracurricular band without being part of band? So I know Mr. Kelly actually had to run to one of those rehearsals, but I can answer that question. They do need to be enrolled in band or chorus in order to be in the ensemble. So if they wanted to potentially audition for the chamber choir or the jazz band ensemble, they need to be in that class as well. All right, the next question was back to math, asking if we could just briefly cover this slide again. So Melissa, do you want me to pull it up and just, you can quickly, okay.
Sure. Okay, so just to go through the order that students will go in, all 9th graders will start at algebra. So it doesn't matter which of the 3 lanes you're in. And then following algebra, each of the students will take some form of geometry. So depending on what, is appropriate for them at that point. And then after geometry, we then go into, so students will either take algebra 2 or will have honors algebra / pre-calculus for their junior year. And then for senior year, for students who, if you look at the lane all the way to the left, our algebra 2 is broken up over 2 years. That's for students who just need that class to be stretched out a little more. Then if you look at the next lane, they would go from geometry to algebra 2 into pre-calculus, and that was where they would end as their senior year. And then our honors track would end in AP calculus. In the middle, you'll notice that geometry taken concurrently with algebra 2 is an option. So what that means is that for sophomores who were not in the honors track for 7th, 8th, and 9th grade and want to take calculus their senior year, those students can opt to double up, meaning that they take geometry concurrently with algebra 2 in their sophomore year, which then puts them into pre-calculus as juniors, and then puts them into calculus AB as seniors. In addition to that, so then if we look at our honors track, those students would take honors algebra, which also follows with geometry honors, and then their junior year would be an honors algebra with pre-calculus, and their senior year would be either AP Calculus AB or AP Calculus BC. And we do have a criteria for determining that their junior year. And then we do have our electives. So as I said before, the intro to comp sci is for any students grades 9 through 12, but that is only a half-year course. Our AP Comp Science A is for grades 11 through 12, but actually, I just realized we actually need to, I missed that in the editing. The AP Comp Sci A, students, sophomores can take that as long as they've taken Intro to Comp Sci as a freshman. Otherwise, they need to wait till they're junior. And then the AP Comp Sci principles really would follow that. It's definitely much more in depth and a much more challenging of the two APs. And the other option for them as an elective, which they could take either their junior or senior year, is AP Stat.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, great. The next question, what is the requirement for students to take chemistry honors in 10th grade? Sharon, do you?
I'm sorry. Yeah, so for students who want to take chemistry honors, they need to maintain a 92 average in the first 2 quarters of their living environment class. So they would need a solid A for both the first and the second quarter.
Great, thank you. Next question, I'm sorry, is can you talk a little bit more about the Intro to Computer Science class?
I can talk a little bit about it. We do encourage the students to talk to Mr. Scutero about that because it is his specialty. They can always reach out to me or Mr. Scutero when at school. Basically, it's the beginning of coding. So it really is a very fundamental introduction. It's very accessible to every student. It really gives students that beginning piece of it where they can start to understand comp sci, but it's accessible to everyone in the way that it's not anywhere in the ballpark of what the AP courses are. So it gives them a little bit of an intro, which builds off of what they have done a little bit previously.
Thank you. Next question. How much overlap is there for a student in a Latin track taking the Greek and Latin roots elective?
In terms of overlap, certainly there would be some overlap of some of the language that's been learned in terms of the Latin itself and the vocabulary, but the ways that the languages develop over the previous 2,000 plus years shows that the languages themselves are obviously not exactly the same. And so while a knowledge of the roots might already be there to a certain extent for students who have already taken some Latin, the ways that the languages have morphed and the connections that they can make will still be very beneficial. So this is a course that really is meant for students of all different backgrounds. And we're hopeful actually that some of our Latin students will choose to take the elective course so that they can bring some of their knowledge to the class and their perspective on language to their classmates and share and be able to explain their own experiences in the language in Latin to help their peers understand language, and also in doing so reinforce their own knowledge. One of the best ways for students to learn and master material is to explain how the concept works to their peers. And so this is a great opportunity for students to work together to enhance each other's knowledge. So I think there's a lot of overlap, but it's not going to be repetitious for students.
Thank you. We have a couple of questions about the change of the schedule. So one question was just to talk a little bit more about that. I know Mr. Hoser will be hosting a separate forum for that. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Kyle.
Thanks, Lauren. So I sent out an email to the community earlier today. We're excited at the prospects of having a new schedule next year. In that communication, I noted that we have still a ton of work to do and many items need to be finalized. We're going to spend the next couple of weeks trying to do that work. We will hold an optional parent guardian meeting on Thursday, March 31st at 7 p.m. My hope is that we can answer many more questions at that time. I don't know that we'll have all the details resolved by March 31st. There's a lot of work that needs to go into this. I'm hesitant to share any more information than what was in that communication, because as we finalize our plans, it could change what I say tonight. So just bear with me a little bit, ask for your patience, and we'll share more information about the new schedule on March 31st.
One question related to that was, is it going to impact course registration for now? And the answer is no, it will not. So it won't impact, it'll just be when the class, how often your child is taking the class and what the overall schedule looks like, but it will not change the number of courses a student can take. Next question is, what is the difference between Spanish and Spanish for communication?
So the Spanish for communication is geared exactly as its name implies towards being able to use the language to communicate in the target language, ideally at some point with native speakers. And the difference between the Spanish for communication and the typical Spanish track is that there is less of a focus on some of the grammatical complexities, and that the concept of being understood and creating comprehensible language is a stronger featured goal of that course, rather than some of the more polished and technical speaking of someone who has more of a proficient native background, ideally. So they're each challenging in their own ways, but the communication course is perhaps not the more typical sort of Spanish experience that people our age experienced back in the day when we were in junior high school and high school.
Thank you. The next question, can you explain the science prerequisites? In the past, students could take chemistry and then AP bio. Now that they take bio, does that mean they will take chemistry in 10th before going into AP bio or chem? Where would AP physics fit in?
So basically, the students need to, at this point, the APs are offered as 11th and 12th graders. So the kids need to take 2 years of the Regents class beforehand. For the prerequisites are all outlined in the bulletin, but I believe for both AP Chem and AP Bio, both chemistry and biology are recommended for the students. For AP Physics, they can take it as an 11th grader if they want to, or they can take it as a 12th grader. So basically, there are 4 options for APs that the kids have 2 years to fit into, and they can take, any combination of those two that they would like out of the biochemistry, physics, and environmental science. Just as a note, all students do need to take a living environment class, like a biology-based course at some point before they graduate from high school.
Thank you. Next question is also a science question. Can you address the perception that earth science is modified?
It's not. It's definitely a rigorous class. It probably, I mean, it's as on par with the living environment in terms of, I would think, the depth of the course. Some students are steered a little bit more toward earth science than they are the living environment, just because of language. The earth science is a little less sort of language vocabulary heavy and tends to be a little bit more stressed in terms of the math and the data and the charts. I find that a lot of kids take the biology first just because it is a requirement, and they sort of want to get it done and out of the way, and that wraps them up midway in the beginning. But students don't, I mean, we have kids who have decided, to take earth science in 9th grade, some of them take biology and then go back and take earth science in 10th grade. It's really just a personal preference.
Great, thank you. The next question was about Health 10 and the suggestion, wanting to know a little bit more about why it's suggested if a student's thinking about science scholars or AP computer science principles. So I can take that one. So again, for science scholars, it's a 2.5-year long program. Typically, all students are required to take health in 10th grade. We allow it in 9th. It's open to all students, but really suggested really for those that are thinking about science scholars, because that would fill their elective period 10th, 11th, and midway through 12th grade. Students are only allowed to take a second elective in the fine and performing arts. So they can fill one period of their day with any electives of their choosing. The other one can only be filled with the fine and performing arts. So if they're taking the science scholars, they couldn't take health along with that. They can only do a fine or performing arts. The AP computer science, typically our AP computer science courses were only offered in 11th and 12th grade. Beginning with your child's grade moving up, AP computer science principles will be available in 10th grade. And so if a student wants to take it in 10th grade, they don't need to. They could take it when they're older if it's a course they're looking to take. But if they did want the opportunity to take it in 10th, again, because we typically have students take health in 10th grade, we'd suggest they take it in 9th if they're looking to take a series of those AP computer science classes. And just one note with the AP computer science principles course, once your child is eligible to take it in 10th grade, it can be through taking either Intro to Comp Sci or a certain grade in your algebra class. So they would be able to take it in 10th grade, even if they weren't able to take the Introduction to Computer Science class. I hope that answered that clearly. The next question is, will the slides be shared with us? Yes, the slides will be shared. I think Mr. Hosier will also put those in his weekly email, and I will email you tomorrow. And that's it in terms of questions. One thing I would just add for electives that's important is we do ask for students to give alternates. So you'll see the form when it comes home when we explain this already to your children. We do ask to have backups. So of course, we would love to give your child all of their first choices. It doesn't always work with the whole schedule. It's a big puzzle and it doesn't always fit perfectly together. So we do ask for students to give us alternate second and third choices. So that is important. And you'll see that on the form for your child to fill out. Again, we'll be meeting with your children individually. They're welcome to speak to their teachers. If you have any other follow-up questions that weren't answered this evening, you can feel free to reach out to your child's counselor or the department chair psychologist, or administrator, depending on your question. We thank you so much, and we hope that this was a helpful evening for you.
Thank you. Have a